Don't tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want. Wah!
All right, we're live. We're here.
We're live. You know, Matt, I was thinking as we queued that up, what we should do is we should have that roll into like one of those like who's that channel, you know, and then we'll do like the silhouette of us, and then that's like guess our face or something.
It's every time. It's just us. Yeah,
It's just
us,
Hobby Bob.
unfortunately for everybody. Yeah.
And every single time they'll be like, wait, is there somebody new? And they're like, oh no.
Yeah, we will insert an audience going, ah, yeah, just disappointment. Yeah,
It's basically how I felt every single time they revealed the actual Pokemon. I was like, no, it was supposed to be a different one.
yeah. It's not Blastoise. Blastoise. One of my favorite.
Anyway, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that because there was a guy who made a joke about how he's just going to use AI to guess all the Pokemon. And I was like, that's you saw AI, you're like, wait, now I can get it right.
Yeah. If anything good comes out of AI, it's that I can guess the who's that Pokemon every time. I'll friggin' nail it.
Well, welcome everybody back to Hobby Vomit.
Yeah.
That's who's what channel it is. So I'm Ian, and this is.
I'm Matt. Hello.
I timed it perfectly with the drink.
Yeah, you did. All those practices paid off. Before
Yeah,
I was like, no, we got to get it right.
Well, it's great to have everybody back. It's great to be back. It's been a few weeks since we did last recording. We finished Memories of Ice, and so now we are finally able to do our BARF review, sort of in thematic line. We've done these before with the books we've read, and it's been really awesome to be able to do these together. And so you'll see these for all the books. For those of you who've also been checking out The Empire of Silence, we'll be doing that here pretty soon as well. Yeah, so we're going to do our BARF review for Memories of Ice. I'm going to go ahead and kind of quickly go through the BARF review system again. If you've seen any of the other ones, you kind of know how it goes. But for those of you who haven't, we'll go through this. Also, if you are watching this because you're interested in whether or not you should read the books like the Memories of Ice, obviously I do recommend that if you're going to read it, you read the series. But we are going to try to keep it spoiler light while we give our initial points, and then we will go into hard spoilers. So you'll get our score, get our sell, the things that we sort of generally feel about it, and that can give you an overall impression as to whether or not you would like to read the book or go into the series. And then we'll give you a fair warning, and we will jump into a lot more spoiler heavy, just kind of where the book fits in with the series as a whole, and what we're kind of excited for coming forward or going forward. So yeah, so the BARF system, BARF, or BARFs, because we will have an S at the end. But B is going to be for believable. So this is our time to sort of talk about how well the characters fit into the world that they're put in. Did we actually believe the characters and their setting? Then A is authorial voice. So this is going to be talking about sort of the appeal of the book, the prose of the book, the world building of the book. And it's sort of a shoe-in where we can kind of talk about the things that stuck out in terms of the author's own craft, as well as the sort of general things about the book that you might find really attractive. And then R is going to be for rhythm. So true to the name, how was the pacing? How was the plot? Was it a fairly good structure? Did you get lost? Did you not get lost? Was it too slow? Was it too fast? Was it just right? And so on. And then lastly will be our F for feeling. What feels did it give you? Did it leave you with any impressions? And so this is kind of a way for us to discuss if we were given any strong highs, any high highs, any low lows. Was there an overall theme that really sat with us after the book? Or is it just one of those books where you close it and you kind of just forget about it, right? If there's nothing that really like you wrestle with or really reflect on afterwards, this is kind of our time to talk about that as well. And then we rate each of those categories, and then we take an average as our score, and then we kind of give our pitch for the book. Why would you want to read this, or why would we recommend that you read this?
I didn't mean to drop this in the middle of an actual video, but I wanted to add something to authorial voice, which I thought would fit that category well, which is just like, did the author execute? How well did they execute what they set out to do? I think that could kind of fall into that category.
Yeah, no, I really like that a lot. I mean, I think overall that is one thing that sometimes can be left out in book reviews. It's just like there is an author behind this book with an actual genuine craft who set out to accomplish something, right? No, I really like that a lot, actually. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Matt? Anything I've left out or forgot?
No, I think you nailed it.
Perfect. And then this
sorry.
for this one, you good?
I did think of something.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say how we score how we score it. I'm not sure if that's where you're about to go, but so each of these 4 categories we're gonna score out of 5, and then our final score of the book will just be the average of those 4 categories. I think we just round up to the nearest 0.25 just to keep it clean. But yeah, so that will be our final score. I don't know if we'll lead with our final score or how we'll do it, but yeah, keep it spoiler free up front, and then revisit all those categories again. In a spoiler.
Yeah, no, I think it would be good to kind of start off with our final score, and then that way we can kind of break it down. And we'll break it down like we'll both give our Bs, both give our As, Rs, and so on and so forth in the final pitches. And then one thing that we are going to do is somewhat new for this particular episode is after we give our scores and then we go into more of the spoiler heavy, we do have some questions that we wrote down and passed back and forth that will kind of help give us some things that we'd like to talk about. Just, there's well, I was about to say some open questions. Steven Erickson just has a great craft for leaving really interesting threads to get you excited for the next books. So there's actually quite a few things that are, I think, really, really interesting for looking ahead in the series. And so we have some questions that will kind of help evoke some of those things and may actually be useful for some of you if you guys are doing your own book clubs or if you're trying to get other friends or things like that excited about the series and you want to be able to discuss it, because really these videos have monumentally helped Matt and I with building our interest in these books and being able to just keep track of things too. Having these has really helped. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think we talked about the goal of this video. If you're a Malazan veteran and you've seen our thoughts on the first 2 books, you probably know where this review is going. And so yeah, the goal really was we wanted to try and at least keep it semi-interesting, and even for us, instead of just kind of rehashing everything we've already talked about in the previous videos, we want to keep it interesting. Looking to the future as well, just say things maybe, or try and talk about things maybe we hadn't, and really focus on the scope of the entire book rather than just moment after moment after moment. So we'll see. It probably will, result in us just gushing. Because it's gonna be hard not to. But yeah, I say let's jump into it with that.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to go ahead and give your final score?
Yeah, so with all that, I'm sure you guys know it's a 1 out of 5 for me. I hated it. No, 5 out of 5. I mean, 5 out of 5. One of the easiest 5 out of 5s I've given, I think.
Yeah, I tried to punch it into my calculator, and it actually just broke my calculator. It just couldn't handle the raw score. No, so for me, not to be contentious, because the one thing I kept bouncing around back and forth in my head was it's always difficult, and we talked about this before, it's always difficult to rate a book as a standalone versus as a member of a series. I think that overall, I think this is probably somewhere around like a 4.8, 4.9 for me. I mean, my score is a 4.9, but I think that arguably, if we rate it as a standalone, it's probably like a 4.6. But I think overall about a 4.9 for me.
Well, we round up to the nearest 0.25.
We do, yeah. There you go. And that'll make more sense as we go through different categories.
I am curious. Yeah, we'll have to talk about it more. But I want to know, have you ever given a book a 5-star? Perfect score?
I don't, honestly, I think there are some books that have a huge appeal for me because of nostalgia. But I think critically, I don't think I've really read a book outside of Malazan that has accomplished what it's accomplished, and also what's the right way to say this? So there are books I've read where I have had these like really epic moments of realization because of something extreme that a character went through, where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing story around this character. But I've also gone back to those books and then been like, oh, okay, well, that was probably because I was reading when I was 14.
Mm.
And then there's like other things I noticed. I'm like, that's really not done so well. It's just like there's a character I was really excited about. And so I think that there certainly can be, there were certainly books I've read when I was like 14, 16, 18 that were like the best books ever. But I think Malazan has like, it's a truly amazing craft in the sense that it's very hard to find things I'm critical about. I genuinely am impressed by the author's ability and craft. I think the characters are amazing, and on it, I have no doubt at all that it would be just as good on a second read.
Yeah.
So I think
You're
that
just
I think
leaving
this
room
book
for
for me
improvement.
has truly does.
You're leaving
Yeah,
point
yeah.
one, point one.
Point one.
room for improvement.
No, I think it'll make sense. I think when we get into it.
Yeah, I'm curious,
because
yeah.
I have an opinion. Again, that's why I said contentious. I have an opinion about books in a series, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I do truly think that Steven Erikson has accomplished something with these that has truly impressed me, and I hands down best fantasy series I've ever read or heard about. Just
That could be
out,
honestly,
yeah.
that could be a really interesting video to do where we talk about rating a book as a series. I think I would have pretty different views on that than you. So I'd be very, very curious. I think it's almost impossible to rate a later book in the series as a standalone. Because I think that, I think it, so that could be interesting. But
I think it'd be great. Well, now we have like a lot of shared, history with books we've read.
Yeah.
I think which would really help that
series,
conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we both loved it. I mean, if you've watched these videos, I think you probably knew. You probably knew what was coming. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into our BARF scores. We'll go through the four categories, score them, maybe give a sentence or two about what we thought in a spoiler-free way, and that way anyone who doesn't want any spoilers can mosey on out, and we can get into the good stuff. So why don't you kick us off with believable?
B. Yeah, so this is actually the category that lowers my score because I felt very strong about the other ones. So believable, how believable are the characters? The main cast of Memories of Ice is absolutely phenomenal. They fit in with the system. Many of them we have encountered before previously in the series, and we're only getting to learn more. And the more we learn just makes the characters more interesting, more complex, and makes me more invested in them. And this book, kind of like the previous book with Deadhouse Gates, just there's certain characters that just all of a sudden like take the stage, and you're just so excited to see that. And I have characters for the previous book that I love, and I just was really happy we had to spend more time with them. And even so, I'm like, it's a fine for them to like take backseat to this main show that's going on over here. I don't know where it came from, but like this just the way that Steven Erikson is able to compel us to be so invested in characters in a cast of characters that is quite lengthy. I mean, there are a lot of characters, and now that we're in the third book, that means there's even more over the grand expanse of things. And yet, he has this way to compel me to want to be invested and to want to have like a just resolution for these characters, and I think that virtually all of them do. There's one worry I have with this particular book in terms of its cast, which is just like the whole thing as a series, which I think it can become too easy to rely on introducing characters that you then sell as something for a later book. It's just like, okay, I'm going to put these characters in here and they're going to be carried along with the story because I'm going to use them later. And I'm just going to, hopefully, I'm going to rely on the fact that I've bought enough good faith with my audience that they're going to be okay with these characters being here. And they're going to just trust that this is for something useful later. But I think there are certain characters in this book which do take up several pages and are in like throughout the book, where if they had not been there, I don't think we would have noticed. And so I think because of that, I think that they could serve as a distraction. Again, they might come in a later book and then it'd been like really cool. But I just don't know. And I think that overall it was fun to have them, but I think there are some characters we just generally don't need. in this book, which is why I gave it a slightly lower rating. The slightly lower, by the way, was like a 4.6 or 4.7 or something.
Yeah.
So it's it really it's still overall amazing for its cast.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 5. I could see your points though. I think it's weird. It's like if I had to give Erickson a weakness, I think maybe it would be character work. But I don't even think it's because it's bad. I think it's just because there's so many characters that you're never gonna get the same amount of like growth or just time with a character because there literally aren't enough pages. But I think that's like the negative of it for me. The positive is that like what he can do with so few pages can eclipse what some authors do with an entire book. He can do that with a third of the book and make me feel even more. So it's like it's a pro and a con. I lean pro. I think with what you're talking about with the characters that because there certainly are those for sure. I kind of don't look at it as a distraction. I look at it as more of like this is a real lived-in world, and if I walked out on the street right now, I would probably interact with people I'll never see again. And if that's the way it is, I'm okay with that. Because if anything, it's the people that are interacting with those people I probably do know, and I'm getting more character work out of them, even if the people they're interacting with never show up again. So that's kind of how I look at it. It just makes it feel more of like not every character is going to show up and need to have total purpose. But I can see why you find it a little distracting for sure. So yeah, five for me. Yeah. So let's go to authorial voice.
I do want to mention one thing,
Yeah.
which because we'll get to discuss it further in the comments. So if anybody, because I know there's some Malazan fans, I don't want you guys to like flame me too early. I obviously want to hear people's opinions. So scorch me at will. But I have specific characters in mind. So I don't want to imply that if a character will not be seen again, they shouldn't be in the book. I have specific characters I'm thinking about that were present throughout the book. That influence that score. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, because I totally agree with your point as well. And so, just having some bystander out of a bar, bump elbows is not enough for me to be like, oh, what does he do it here? So I want people to know that like I do have specific characters. So wait until we discuss it further.
All right, let's. I'll kick us off with A. We'll snake it. So authorial voice, 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Saying that like if character work is Steven Erickson's weakness, which it's not, but if it were, I think authorial voice is really his strength. Like he's got incredible prose. The amount of times that like I couldn't believe the amount of times that he had me like laughing out loud in this book, which I think is hard to do, and not a lot of authors can make me laugh out loud and blindside me with it so much. And like it's just done perfectly. And I think like he, even if this is just his third book, I feel like he has already completely like mastered his craft. I don't the world building it's tough, I think, like, comparatively to like most other series out there, but like the world building in this book, I feel like I'm learning history, but in a good way. And so, yeah, I don't have any no notes. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, so for me, also 5 out of 5. So I'll go ahead and just add to what Matt was saying with a few specifics that I just think that are just really, really cool for his craft. So one of the things that Matt and I have talked about in reviews, I'm a huge fan of like military battles and things like that, and I love it, especially in movies. But there can definitely be these elements where if you have a long, drawn-out fight in a book, like it almost feels like an anime show where you have to wait. The whole season is just one fight. It can be too drawn out. So one of the things that's really awesome, and we see it in this book, and we've seen it in a previous book as well, is Steven Erickson has this really great skill for presenting in like a very extreme conflict, right? We're talking about like falls of cities, potential death of many, like the epic scales that can come with these types of events, and has a way of introducing that with a lot of tension and then letting it subside into the context of what the characters are doing rather than the active play-by-play. So rather than you going through like the swords clash and the shields hit and like, oh, then I stabbed him and like that's one fallen, like it just is part of the context where now the characters are moving, and then if they come across like a band of enemies, that's not a surprise. They're in the middle of a battle, right? They're in the middle of a war. And it makes it so compelling because you have this heightened tension. You know that there's danger around every corner, but you get to stay with the drama. You're not just constantly distracted by the sort of the shiny clattering of swords, right? And I just think that's so cool, and it makes it really feel like if I was running a D&D game, that's what I would want. Like I'd want that kind of drama. I'd want that kind of immersion, and it does that so well. So that's one of the things I think is really awesome. And then in terms of his world building as a whole, he takes a soft approach to magic. He takes a soft approach to lore, but things come in at the right times. You learn things as you need to learn things. He doesn't hold your hand through the process. And every time we get to peer behind another curtain to learn more about the lore or the world, it just is really cool. It feels appropriate and really compelling. And I love how we are given the opportunity to really wonder, like with awe, at the world and the way it works and how things interact, and then to be like, oh my gosh, like maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that, like will this happen in the future, and then sort of all things in their time rather than sort of being beat over the head with it consistently. I think Steven Erikson shows he has a deep appreciation for his lore and for his world, but he doesn't really come off as an author that loves his lore too much, if you will. Like he like loves the lore, but he doesn't like need you to love it too. It's just like this is the world he's giving you, and just take it as you will. And so those two things I think were again heightened in this book that we saw in the previous book. And I feel like you said, it really feels like he's perfecting his craft, and I really appreciate the way that he can wield these tools.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, bring us into our rhythm.
Okay.
So plotting and pacing.
Yeah, so I will say that so rhythm in terms of its overall plot structure and pacing, this book feels great, and you never get lost with the particular aim and goal. And I think that one of the things that really helps this book is that it does use this first part to really set up like what the characters are trying to accomplish. Obviously, there will be twists and turns and things like that. In terms of pacing, it's kind of interesting because every book has almost featured this kind of journey that has to take place. This is I think of the three we've seen so far, this one is at risk of maybe being a little too slow, but I still gave it a 5 out of 5 because rather than it being like a we journey and camped here, then we journey and camped here, and it's sort of like a day in the life. You do have this ability to bounce back and forth between scenes of characters over here and characters over there. You're watching many different storylines kind of coming to a coalescence. I actually thought that the overall journey as a whole really helped to develop the characters. Now, I will say that you can't really read this as a standalone, but the journey would probably not make sense as a standalone because a lot of it is really helping to develop the character entanglements that we have come to understand from now coming into 3 books. But I actually really enjoyed the journey as a whole. But I could also totally understand it if other people were like, it was a little slow, maybe slower than the other ones. And I could definitely see that. But for me, it still was a 5. It felt appropriate. I never got bored. I was always interested. And I always felt like there was tension. It always felt like even if something wasn't happening right now, we were like on the cusp of it. And so I was very happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm exactly the same as you. I could see why this... It's weird. There's a book by Joe Abercrombie called The Heroes, which I kind of feel similarly about, where it's like that whole book is literally just one battle. Literally from page 1 to the final like 600 page, it's one battle. And I went into that book very like apprehensive, just like that is not my favorite. That is not my favorite thing. But it's the classic like the plot exists to serve the characters rather than the other way around. And I think that's how this book is too. It really, at the end of the day, the plot is very simple. It's like a journey and some like one goal and a couple battles, which on paper that would not excite me. I would not be excited knowing that would, I'm glad we didn't know. I mean, I would have been excited anyways. I think Steven Erikson had proven himself to me, but like I wouldn't have been like super like, oh, I'm so glad that's the next book of like a journey for battle. But I think you're right. I like it. Those downtimes I was just as excited about those, if not more, because of the character work. That's really when we get the breather in the character work, and I think he nails that. I do think there was one little section I think that the pacing slowed a little bit more than my liking, but I still gave it a. I just couldn't bring myself to give this book like the way I feel about this book. At the end of the day, it's a 5-star book, and honestly, it was just such a short section that I couldn't fault it. But as far as the plot, honestly, I think the plot is the weakest part of the rhythm section because it's just so simple. Like there's really not that much depth. At least with Dead House, like it's like there's like the cult and like there's ascendancies and like there's a lot more going on that was interesting. Where here it's just like military fantasy perfected. But yeah, I still, it's still a 5 out of 5. I'd never wanted to like put the book down. So I think that kind of says what it needs to about it. And then, so 5 out of 5 for me. And then feeling 5. I mean, it's crazy. We'll talk about more about it in like the large scheme of things, but I just couldn't, when I finished Dead House Gates, I was like, we've peaked. It's not, I mean, it can't go up. It can't. And now I was like, Dead House Gates, it's a top 5 book for me. And now I'm like, well, shit. I like this more. Weirdly enough, as far as like reading experiences goes, and will this stick with me? It definitely will. And like maybe some of that is because we're doing this, and maybe I wouldn't feel the same if I just sat down, isolated, and read it. I probably wouldn't. Realistically, I mean, I'd still love it, but I think this really heightens it. But man, some of the like moments that happen in this book I'll never forget them. Like they will stick with me. Kind of like, the end of Dead House. There was there are just, he's managed to pull off moments in this book as well that are just some of the coolest and best things I've ever read. So it had to be a 5. Same. And then talking about the humor again, I think there's the whole spectrum of emotion is in this book. Everything. There's funny. I felt angry at characters. I felt glad. I felt sad. Like I think he pulls off all of it. So yeah, 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a 5 for me as well. I've been thinking a lot about this particular book in terms of its feeling compared to the last two, because I do, at least what Matt told me when we got into the series was that there are a lot of people who view Gardens of the Moon as sort of like the worst book in the series, but there's still a piece of me that I just like it better than I like Dead House Gates, even though I think Dead House Gates is a better book. And this one I think is just the best book that I've read in the series so far. And like you said, I mean, there's a whole spectrum of emotions, but for what I've kind of realized is I think there's just two things about this book, and one of them also being in Gardens of the Moon, that really captures me is I really like the general sense of camaraderie that we actually get. Like you feel like you're a part of that contingent. And so being with the main characters that are part of this army of the Malazan forces, and feeling like you're a part of this grander scheme of things, like knowing that there is a grander scheme at play here, that sense of camaraderie, I just think is really, really cool, and always leaves me with a strong sense of strong feeling towards the book and towards the characters because of the level of bonding that takes place between them. And that's was certainly present in Gardens, and I think it was less present in Dead House Gates, except for like the core storyline of Dead House Gates being the chain of dogs. Whereas a lot of Dead House Gates I felt like really was like the theme of the desert, of like people being separated, right, survival, and then left to survive, right, and then they maybe come back together. But it's really sort of this like trial by desert in the journey through the desert, right?
Yeah, it's like the Chain of Dogs is like technically like it is military fantasy. It is a very different type of military fantasy than this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is singular heroic characters with a strong sense of nobility, like the ones that compel you to want what's noble too. And Deadhouse Gates just did that so well, and Memories of Ice has done that so well. There are characters that are inspiring, sometimes in little ways and sometimes in really big ways, and there are characters that compel you to want them, like to root for them. And I will say that I think there is one thing I'm excited to get into more with this video, but I was really impressed with one of our characters in this book who has this call to action, who for us, like who rises up as a hero, becomes a noble character, right, who sort of compels you to root for him, because a lot of times we can see those characters as almost like they're great on paper, they're admirable on paper, but they're kind of like a plushy toy, right? There's nothing really dangerous about them. They're safe to want to root for. And I think that in this book especially, the characters who rise up as heroes are dangerous. Like they have a way to be dangerous, and they are dangerous to those around them because they carry real authority, and they can exercise that authority for very like power, like almost like final ends in a way, but like they have the ability to shape the world, right? Like that's the thing, is like they can make choices that can shape the world. And it was just so cool to have these kinds of characters who are in some ways like kind of finding their own heroic nature in this book with real teeth, and so I was really excited to be able to spend time with those characters, and it just made me feel really excited, especially when the book was over. It's just like I just read like a Greek legend, right? We've just met demigods, like that's what just happened, and that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, so well, we can kind of dive right into specifics there. I think that's probably a good jumping off point. So let's wrap up the spoiler. I mean, actually, I guess, do you want to do a sell for the third book in the series?
Um,
If
well,
you
I'll
got
just go
some,
ahead and add one quick thing, which
yeah.
is just because I don't know the full story, but I think what you've laid out for me. So it sounds like this was actually intended to be the second book. And then there was an accident. I believe Erickson lost his work. And so Deadhouse Gates was
Dog
the
ate his
second book.
homework.
Yep. So one thing I do want to go ahead and just sell for this book, if you've already read the first two, you should absolutely be reading this one. I mean, frankly, be crazy to me that you wouldn't want to read the third one, because the second one was so good. If you're jumping into this and you're like, hey, is this a cool series? We have stuff on the first two books. It is an amazing series. This book as a whole has really shown what Malazan can be as a series. I think that Gardens of the Moon was amazing, and almost you could almost read it as a standalone book. I mean, well, it's the first book, so you could read it as a standalone book. Deadhouse Gates was amazing. You actually could read that as a standalone book, I think.
I think
And I think it would be
you mostly could, yeah.
good. It would be beneficial to have read Gardens of the Moon, but you would be fine. And I think this book really shows what this series can be. And frankly, I would tell anyone you should read the first three. Like you should read the first two because they're just flat out great books. And then you should read this one because not only is it a great book, but this I think is the decision maker.
Yeah.
And this isn't like a watch the first season of Doctor Who and get through it kind of thing. Like no, this is like read two books that will blow your mind, and then if you want to read one more to see if you want to read the remaining like seven or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think this will show you. And for me, it has shown me that this is going to be an amazing series, and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there are people that have read these three, and this is a jumping off point for some. And that's, you know, the biggest, I think, offender there is if you don't jive with Erickson's like writing. It's not the easiest thing to read for sure. Like I think if I gave this series, Bree and I do a lot of reading together. I know she would not enjoy reading this alone. If we read it together and took it at like a pace to where we could like pause and deep dive, but like it's just not the easiest series to read. So if you're not jiving with his writing, I don't think this book is going to change your mind after Dead House. But I do think it takes the best parts of the first two books and kind of weeds out, if there are bad parts, which I don't think there are, but if you did, I think it weeds those out, and it's just like, yeah, I think this is a, hopefully a really good idea of what we can expect going forward, either this level or or up. So yeah, I think unless you absolutely hated the first two books, I think it's worth giving this one a shot. Yeah, even if there's not like, I think the hardest part of the sell is like there's no like real inciting incident in this book that's gonna like hook you. There's no like real hook. At least in my opinion, it, like we talked about with the rhythm, it can kind of feel slow a little bit, but the payoff is there. And if you're, to me, I still found it captivating the whole time. But there is no inciting like incident that is a like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. You just got to get to page 50 and it gets crazy. You just got to go in for the experience as a whole.
Yep.
But yeah, so let's jump into spoilers. So if you've watched 35 minutes of a video for a book you've not read and a series you've not read, thank you. But and if you watch 35 minutes of us trying to stay spoiler free and you've read all the books and you're like, thank you. We're so bad at time management. It's crazy. Yeah. Like I was like, yeah, we'll do spoiler free for 10 minutes. It's just like even spoiler free we could just gush, but all right, so we're going into spoilers. So why don't I got to know who the characters are that you're talking about. Yeah. Let's that and then specifically the, I mean, we know the heroic characters, but like that's got, the high point.
Yep. Yeah, so let's go and kick it off there. So I would say first and foremost is the second caravan, and then following after that is going to be the first caravan. So the second caravan being Buke, being Harlow, because I'm pretty sure wasn't Stony with, and now I'm going to forget the last name.
Stony, Harlow, and Gruntle.
Gruntle. Were they together, or was Harlow with Buke? I thought
no, the three of them were together, and then Buke came along by himself.
Yeah, so Buke and then our two necromancers. Yeah, so
Corbel.
So
I'm gonna struggle with
all
names.
Things. Yeah, Corbel, Broach, and Washlin. So all things considered, they appear quite consistently throughout this book. And don't get me wrong, there are some amazing scenes. Like, I mean, I know I'm kind of you'll always get me with dark humor. But Quick Ben and I think it was it Boshlin who were talking. That scene was so good. Yeah. I mean, that scene was so good.
It was.
But they obviously do important work in the book in terms of Telemachus, who's absolutely pivotal in ensuring that Quick Ben gets to where he needs to be able to travel the Warrens and everything like this, right? And then ultimately being able to take down the Jogwood at the end. Like all of this is really important. So like, don't get me wrong in terms of like their mechanical significance, but my kind of thing with characters is I don't want them to just be mechanical. Like I don't want them just to have mechanical significance. So here's the thing, right? Is like if we took out those characters, then my question would be, obviously there are some holes where we need something else to fill in, but there could have been other characters who filled those potential spots. Like Telemachus, we could have just met. Could have been the consequence of those guys, and that would have served that role. And then there's also Corbelin going after the Maibee, which really, I mean, it didn't need to happen, or it could have been something else. But yeah, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, if Buke and them had died, would that really, when the first, like, Chinchimala, like, when they had their first encounter, like, would it really have changed? And I think, I mean, Harlow died, and, like, frankly, we didn't have as much investment in Harlow for the payoff, but that's okay. I can accept that while I don't know Harlow very well, Gruntle did, and that had a profound effect on him, especially since Harlow threw himself in the way of that, right? Yep. And he wasn't the captain, right? Gruntle's the captain, and so someone who's technically under his rule, under his authority, put himself in harm's way and lost his life for it. So like I can be totally on board, like that is gonna rock that guy, right? I don't need to know Harlow super well to have that same understanding. But like with Buke and them, I kind of wonder. I'm like, I would have lost some funny moments, which frankly I love. But I'm like, I don't know what they're for right now. And I especially don't know with Buke, and I feel bad because like you had a couple of predictions. You're like, wait, what the heck? What, this
Yeah,
guy never
I
came
should
back.
have known that's what you're talking about because he was the one I was like big things are coming for Buke. He's gonna be the hero of the book. And he just fucking turned into a bird and flew away.
We're really joking about how there's probably like the ninth book, and there'll be like a critical shot, and then this Buke will fly in. And just, I'm here,
I'm still
guys. I made
relevant.
it.
I'm still relevant. Remember me? Yeah.
And so for me, I was just thinking about that, and that's kind of where I was getting with the sort of standalone. Obviously, it's the third book in a series, so rating as a standalone is not necessarily fair. Um, but I do think that as a series, if you transition into your series where you start, I mean, you do need to build up faith and goodwill with your audience, and it's okay to cash that in sometimes. But I definitely don't want every book to just be, hey, here's some characters, trust me, like they're going to be relevant later. I do want characters to have some degree of resolution within their given book, even if there's a lot more that needs to be done later. Like for example, with going back to Deadhouse Gates, with the sister, so I went to my time. But anyway, with the with Perrin's sister, yeah, I know we were mad at her like the entire book.
I'm so bad
This
names.
this is why I take notes, man.
Yeah.
This is why I take notes. I can remember the older one, right? But like, I'm just struggling with the younger one. But the point there being, Fellison, thank you.
Yeah.
So the point there being is like Fellison's not resolved by the end of Death Case, but there is a kind of resolution, right? There's a decision, an important decision's been made. But we really don't know like what the heck's going on with Buke. We don't know the priest as well. Like we don't really know too much about what his overall agenda is, why
Who's the priest?
how he got into this. The one that
Caruli?
Gruntle was shuffling. Yeah, Caruli. Maybe is priest maybe not the right word for him. I thought he was.
Didn't we? I thought like we. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
No, he's Caruli. He's Caruli.
Caruli,
Yeah, we do know.
yeah.
Sorry, he's Caruli. So apologies about that one. But like Corporal Broche, like we don't really know ultimately what their intention is, and same thing, yeah. And so it would have. I think I would have been a lot more excited for their characters at the end of the book if we had gotten a better inclination for what they're involved in, right? Like what's the dirt under the, where are the skeletons in the closet with these two, other than the fact that they're serial killer, necromancers, and all of that. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think that's
on
fair.
those guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't bother me as much. I think like especially Buke, as irrelevant as he becomes, I think like if this whole book, that conversation about Buke's past with his family and like what kind of person he is becoming, throwing himself like almost wanting to die heroic, like that's stuck with me through all of this. And like the fact that just like that one conversation, I feel like I understood Buke. And even though we didn't get a resolution, I still think that conversation becomes really relevant. And I didn't feel like in a mechanical way that conversation becomes relevant, and he becomes relevant to Gruntle, I think, as far as like getting his shit together to help Stoney and stuff like that. I think while yes, you could have done it without Buke, I still feel like it is important, and in like a natural, organic way of like, this is a caravan. There are plenty of wagons crossing the road here, and like that just happens to be one. And like I feel like we get so many resolutions with almost all of the characters that I think I'm okay with some. I never cared about Corporal Broach or Boschlin the way I cared about I feel like he never gave me the illusion, other than no, he didn't give me the illusion with Buke. I just was making a stupid prediction because that's what we do. I don't think Steven Erickson ever promised us anything. It was just like
right.
No. And I never felt that with Corporal Broach and Boschlin either. To me, it was just an opportunity to give us some new, mechanical things, which, at the end of the day, I don't really, I don't need that, but it felt like in a natural way. I found them to be compelling characters enough, and just like a different type of character where they're almost like they're just seeking knowledge. And and not in like a clean way. And I find that really interesting. And like when I think about what happens in the book, like it makes sense they're not in the final battle. Why would they?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's
Right.
out of place for them to end where they do in the book. But you're right. It's when you really think about it, you're like, man, they kind of did just like pitter out, or is it Peter out? Peter?
Peter out. Yeah.
Peter? Who's
Peter
Peter? They peter out.
He's the main guy from Family Guy. Don't you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. They kind of do, but yeah, I don't know. It didn't really. I thought you were talking about the Mott regulars, because they really, to me, they're the ones that are just like, they are present, but I couldn't really tell you anything about them, and they're like, I'm sure they're gonna be relevant, and if you took them out of the book, I even less or even more so, I wouldn't care. But it's not enough to me. Like when it was whoever was interacting with them. I got some good character work out of that, so it didn't really bother me so much. But I think that's just the balance of. It's just he writes characters in such a unique way that this world is so big. I'm glad that there are characters that feel like we ran into you on the road, and not always just to give us something. Like, while I think Corporal Roach and Boschlin do, like you said, I think you almost could take them out and the story wouldn't really suffer for it. But like, I'm okay with them being in and the story being as it is. Like, it feels like a character, and maybe they will show up. This is a living world to me at this point. Like, maybe we won't see them for, maybe we're going to go back to the Seven Cities and they're here, and we join the Malazan army over on Seven Cities, and we don't see Boschlin and Corporal Broach for 3 more books, because why would we? That's not the story Erickson's telling. But I could see why that would bother some people. I think for me, like, it's everything that I'm reading. Whoever I'm reading at the moment, they're like who I'm most interested in. He just writes that compelling of characters that I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. And I don't even think about Corporal Broach or Boschlin. And then there's a scene with them like, yeah, I like these guys. I'm just like, they're kind of like the mystery for me right now. Like, are you just they're almost like Frankensteins, like Dr. Frankenstein's, where there's just like knowledge. Like we're going to go to the ends of the earth and do whatever we need to for knowledge. And that doesn't, sometimes that means stealing bodies or, doing morally bad things.
I was about to say morally questionable. I was like, well, I think that we know.
Yeah. Couldn't say questionable. Bad things. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. I totally get the criticism, and I am sad about Buke. But I think right now, if you told me, if I found out right now Buke's never in another book, I'd be like, dang. But I mean, the way he went in this book, I kind of would be okay with his sole purpose being teaching Gruntle something, but in a way that doesn't really feel like he's just there to teach Gruntle something. Like, it feels like this is someone he knew in his past. He knows his story, and he needs someone to pick him up. And like, this person happened to be there, and it wouldn't even, to me, it was almost a little out of Buke's character. Like, you're talking about people doing heroic things. Like, I think that is even on a small scale, it was like picking up a friend. I think it didn't feel like something that like I said, I thought Buke was going to do something heroic, but to me, I thought it was going to be like, I'm gonna go out swinging for the greater good, like he wanted to, not just like, I'm going to pick up a friend because they're down and I know what that's like, and I want to do something good. And so I think Buke really worked for me, but I get it.
Yeah. It's hard because there's kind of a subjective line there that you have to find, because there are characters that are in the book, like the irregulars. There's also the artist that we encountered, who had the toad. I think it was a toad.
Yeah, it was a toad.
Where it's like, if we wanted to be brutally minimalistic, we could ravage this book and just cut all of these characters out. And my wife, who writes, like, she talks about that, where like that can happen when you're working with publishers, where there can be this sort of inclination to just brutally go through and cut out every single little thing that could be considered excess. And I don't personally like that. I think you lose a lot of the character of the book and a lot of the character of the author whenever you do that. So those characters ultimately, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with these regular guys, but like it's totally fine. It adds some quirkiness, and honestly, Buke as a whole too. I mean, I've been left wondering with him, but I think you're right. I think that where he ends is we have these little moments with his character, and those are good enough. But it's I guess maybe it's more so just this Boschla and Corporal Broach because it's almost like this tomato stand. We use this analogy called the tomato stand analogy, which is, let's say that you're really convinced of something, you're really excited about it. Like, let's say that you, for example, like you really want people to go see the next Star Wars movie, which now I'm totally just talking on my ass because nobody wants to go see whatever is going to be the next Star Wars movie. But let's just say that's what it is, right? Well, sometimes you're so excited, you want to tell people and you want to convince them, and then you get really bummed when you can't, right? And so easily now to the tomato stand is like, imagine that you're just the first tomato stand. You know, when people see a tomato stand, they're not gonna be like, I want to go buy tomatoes. But if you walk along the street and you keep seeing tomato stands, second, third, fourth, fifth, by the fifth one, you'll be like, I think I want a tomato. Like, what the heck is going on here, right? And so I think for me with Corblin, it was almost like with Bushland and Corbin Broach, it was almost this for me, I think I just found the subjective line of like it just like they hit that point where they were in enough of the book.
Yeah.
That now I'm like, okay, what is going on with these guys? Because it's not even just these moments around Gruntle. Like they get to meet Quickben. They obviously are meeting Gruntle. Like they're interacting with the Talani Moss. Like they run into Iscarian. Like they are, Jakarian. And they run into they run into Cole, right, and Morelio because they attack the Maybe. Like they're at the very end too. Like they're at the very end of the book. And so it's just like I think for me, kind of hit that subjective line where I'm like, okay, what is going on with these guys? Because they have been in this book enough of the time for me to really wonder more at them. And so I think that's kind of where I was coming from.
Yeah, I see it with the,
they're almost
they're like almost main character. Not there's so many main characters. Obviously, they wouldn't be the main characters, but they're almost main characters. Like they are above. They're presented in a way that they're kind of almost above side characters that you do kind of expect something more. And maybe this is one of those books that like I mean I am certain there is a lot of this book that went over my head, and like on a reread, it'd be like, oh, maybe we'll get some stuff in the future, or maybe we won't. And just reading again will enlighten us a little bit more, and maybe not. And but yeah, I feel like I could see with those two the most of like I could see someone closing the book and be like, well, what about Corporal Broach and Boschland? Like they're just there at the end. They're just there now. So yeah,
I was trying to say.
Get it.
I was trying to say Jacovian. Every time I try to say his name,
Itcovian.
Jacovian. Every time I try to say his name, I just like I almost say Icarium. It's just like
Icarium, yeah.
Still, even now after reading the whole third book, I just like I try to say his name and like Icarium.
Yeah.
It's just like those names get me for some reason.
Tony Manakis, you won't forget that one.
That was easy because you did the accent, so now that's actually what's stuck in my head.
Yeah, and Ballsack.
Every single time because I'll think Stormy because the other guy, and then I'll think it's Stormy but with an accent, and then that's what gives me to Stony Manakis. That's how my brain works. By the way, it's a confusing place.
I feel like so. I'm curious. Like another one, I would say personally, if we're and not to get super held up on this, even though we already have, but like I think Lady Envy almost falls into that camp a little bit as well. The Segula fall into that camp a little bit as well. But
I think the thing
it's
with Lady
weird.
Envy
It just
is
like
I know her.
Sorry,
I know her tension. Like I know her shtick. I think that's the thing. Is like I can see for her that there is a thing that she's wrestling with because of her not participating in the chaining of the chained god, and then now her revelation with Karul and being on the hook. So I can see that this is a pivotal moment for her to decide who she's going to be and to make up for what happened in the past, and that she obviously has a obvious relationship with Draconis.
That's true.
But that's like I think that's for me is like that's the thing I'm missing is like where is that?
We don't have any context for them yet. They're still in it more than a lot of any other character that we have. At least, I think you're right. I think that is what's missing. Is like we don't have any context other than they're there doing their thing. So yeah, I get it. I think it's crazy now to move on from from that, the 20-minute criticism. We're just gonna gush about this book and then criticize it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, like, that when I close this book, any other book that has like raptors with swords for arms, that would be the best part about that. That would be like yeah, but it's got raptors. You know, the book was great, and it's got this, and it's like I feel like I could name 50 things that I liked about this book more than raptors with swords for arm. And like, to me, that just like says everything you need to know about this book. Like, that's on the bottom half of like the best parts about this book. And I don't know, like, I just didn't expect that. I expected that to be like, first of all, I just thought they'd be more relevant. They kind of disappear a little bit. Like, they're there and they're really just like grunts. But when you first meet one, you're like, oh shit, like this is, and they're bad. Like they mess people up. But I thought, you know, at a certain point we kind of move away from the Kell Hunters and move into like the actual problem. And yeah, for him to just be like, yeah, it's casual. Yeah, the little casual grunt raptors with sword arms, and it's just like, all right, wait, we'll move past it. I'm just like, what? I just thought it was going to be like such a big important part of the book, and I'm glad it's not. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be upset if it were, but like, I just think that's so cool that doesn't rank that high for me on like awesomeness scale, on the awesomeness scale. So.
All I could think was just like, people can be such simple creatures. Like, I certainly know that I can be at times. It's just like honestly, if the next Jurassic Park movie, if they just had a shot where it's just like raptors with swords for arms, I'd be like, I guess I'm gonna go see it. Like, I mean, just like okay, you got me back, Jurassic Park. Like, I'll go to the movie theater for this.
They're way more dangerous now. Way more dangerous. Yeah. Yeah, they just keep mutating them so much, and they're like, we need a scarier exhibit. They're like, we know exactly what to do. Give them swords for arms. They'll be fine. Everyone will be fine. We'll put up a sheet of glass. They'll never break through. Nothing will happen. Yeah, I think we should pitch it.
There we go.
Yeah. But let's. I think really quickly, because like we said, we could talk about this book forever. I want to say one thing, and I think we should maybe talk about it, Covian, because I know we're itching to talk about that. And then I think we should just, I think everyone that's watching this has read the book, and I think we should try and force ourselves to talk about the series, the scope of the series, and what we're looking forward to, and some of those questions you knocked out. That way we're not just going on and on. But I want to talk about, like I mentioned with the heroes, I think it's crazy to me that this book is essentially travel in 2 battles. It's the whole book.
Yep.
And I don't like really reading battles, but like there's like a 400-page section that's almost entirely a battle, followed by like a 100-page reprieve, and then like a 300-page final battle. And like I couldn't have been more engaged. And the fact that they both feel so different from each other too is just, I don't know. He wrote these even more like I was saying with Dead House Gates. Like he wrote some of those battles with I was trying to say Coltrane. Coltrane. What's the guy from Gears of War name? I think it's Coltrane.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what Coltrane. But some of those, like specifically the one where they're in like the dried out lake and going uphill, it's very like, I guess mechanical or whatever, how you want to call it. Like it was very militaristic. Like we planned like a retreat and an approach, and like we're talking about the leveling and like the maneuvers of the troops and all of that. And to me, while it was still military fantasy, it became like we really didn't get held up in like sword clashing battle, I think, ever in this book. Certainly not in the Capistan part. I don't think.
You mean like a pitched fight kind of thing, where it's like a whole bunch of like people all fighting and we're sort of like stuck in the thick of it?
Yeah, like for a prolonged amount of time. Yeah.
No,
not like the Dead House Gates one, at least.
Yeah, the closest you get is when the Malazan troops run into like the Envy, right? Like they have like their sort of pitched fights. And that's when we see multiple of the Lazen characters go down.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the closest we get to that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's
because
quick.
even like Stoney's like fight, we don't really.
Yeah, she just comes
I
out
mean, it
of
just
it.
sort of happens and then we're out. Yeah.
There's some of Gruntl's, but I think the best part is that every one of those parts that we just named, all of them have consequences and or meaning. None of them were pointless. We either lost characters, or when Gruntle was fighting right just after meeting Sony, he's doing it with a renewed purpose, and we won it. Like it's, we won it too as the reader. It's not just like, oh, and then he cut down 50 more people. And sometimes it is a character mowing down tons of people, and I still don't feel like anyone is safe at any point in time. I'm always, wondering why they're doing it or what the purpose is, and I feel like we're always given those answers. And then just jumping around from point to point. I will say, I think a little bit you kind of, at least for me, had to at some points be like, I think I know where we are in the city. I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. Because that's just the type of reader I am. I'm like, oh, you're going to tell me they're at a certain tower? Well, then I'm going to go look in the map and be like, oh, they're right there. So I just like knowing where things are if I can. And there was a point where I was just like, I think I've lost it. I think I've lost where everybody is, and that's okay. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But I just think I think that was the biggest surprise for me, is like, I was nervous going into some of these big battles because they're pitched as they're going to be big battles. What you're getting into, but he just handled them in such a way that I was completely captivated the entire time. And honestly, the one slow part that I think maybe could have been a little quicker was the march from Capistan to Coral. There was a little bit.
What I refer to as like the possibly slow. I can definitely see it.
Just a little bit. Like, I like the journey aspects, but I think just coming off the high of, it almost felt like the book was repeating. Like, the first half of the book was like everybody meets up for a parlay and then they go execute this job at Capistan. And then after Capistan, everybody meets up for a parlay and then they travel and go execute this plan at Coral. So it's almost like the same book twice. Even though they feel very different plot-wise, that's kind of what happens. And I think by that time I was like, I'm ready to get to Coral. And when I think about what happened on that journey, it felt maybe a little bit less consequential than the journey to Capistan. Obviously, important things happen, like with the split, of who's going ahead and who's staying behind and those kind of things. But yeah, mostly maybe the mono regulars, and like some of them are taking the barges and some are not. And I'm just like, it's kind of just like a means to an end. Like, I'm ready to get there and see what happens. But really, that's just if it were like 30 pages shorter, I would have been like, that's cool. But not too much of a knock or anything. But yeah, unless you want anything to add to that.
So I wanted to add one thing, because honestly, that's probably the thing that impressed me the most with this book, was just like Jacovian and everything that he accomplishes within this book. I would have loved to be able to see him more, like in future books. I don't think that's what we're going to get. I think that this is a done deal in terms of his character death. But he's the one I'm referring to when I talk about how we can have a character to sort of rise up, take the stage, and become the sort of hero very, very quickly. I didn't think of Jacovian as being one of these characters. I thought he was going to be, important for the Battle of Capistan, but I didn't really think about him as being almost like, Coltane, but for this book. But yet, when that battle takes place and we see what's happening and how he has to rally his troops and like what he's dealing with and the sort of sense of justice that both him and the Mortal Sword have, right, in terms of the Fenner's Rev, and like they know the betrayal and they do it, they heed the call anyway, and there's just something that was just so epic about that, and the grace like which these characters accept that, and then how he plays his role as the Shield Anvil, and like coming to understand like what that means. Like to see a mortal person have so much authority and ability due to his position within the structure as, being the Shield Anvil. It was just so impactful to realize what that meant. And it comes, like I said, it comes with teeth. I mean, we saw like how much of a threat it was to Anaster, and I mean how much of a threat it was to all of the children of the Dead Seed. Like we saw how much of a threat it was to like the alien god, and also into Fenner's like the gosh the Fenner's priest. What do we call that? A Wrath Fenner.
Wrath Fenner, yeah.
And it's just like his authority has great power, and there's also great opportunity for absence, right? Like if he didn't do those things, I mean, like think about like what he was able to do for the world that Silver Fox was crafting, right? By taking the memories of the Talon and Moss. Like it comes with great opportunity that could have been lost if it was in a lesser person's hands. But because of the kind of person he was and the character that he was and what he was willing to take on and how like fearless he was in facing possible annihilation, for taking on this like these sorrow and grief from the people,
like worse than death.
Yeah, it was so like amazing. I mean, we talk about like an anime moment. Like there's like no better anime moment than just being there and being like, I have no one in my back, but I'm going to press on anyway. Like to go from like nearly being annihilated for taking on the pain of Wrath Fenner, then to just be like, no, give me the whole city, right? Like
to give me the entire Talanimas army. Like it's like, and then it really is just like, yeah, he's just like, oh, you thought that was a lot?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll do more.
Well, like even in the city, like because like with Red Fitter, he like encounters like the alien god, and it's just like this dude is like a boss. He just like sees the alien god. He's like, you,
yeah,
like you're next. You will give me your pain.
Yeah,
and it's just like it's such a great character, and once again, it feels like one of those stories where it's like there's hidden in this book is the story of Jacovian. And it's like you need to read this book just for that story. Like there is a story in here of like kind of I said, like there's like a Greek demigod like just in this book, right? It's like one of those kinds of stories, and it was really awesome to be able to read that story.
Yeah, and that whole like
so cool.
I mean, not the majority of his arc, because the Talani Moss stuff obviously is incredibly important, but like. It's the moment in Kapistan that you really have the realization of like, wow, like, and like that's all within like 200 pages, and that's what like blows my mind the most, and that's what I was talking about of like saying, I think 95% of authors couldn't do that, couldn't give me the arc that Kovian gets in 200 pages in a 600-page book. Or a 3-book series, they couldn't give me that arc, and so while I could see why some people might think the character work can be lacking, those like spotlights are just, to me, they're like life-changing things. He instantly became the star of the book. I'll never forget it, Covey, and just like I'll never forget Coltane, and like to me, it instantly became like, oh, this is at Covian's book. And like you said, it is hidden. Like when we're first introduced to the Gray Swords, I think he's like the third of the 3 that we meet. So it's like, there's the Destrian and the Mortal Sword. And like, okay, I gotta remember these guys are important. And then he's like, me too, I'm here. And you're like, all right, this fucking guy. The third guy's the tag along. And then it's just like, no, he's the one. He's the one. So yeah, and yeah, like you said, he's not doing it because of any kind of like social pressures, or he's not doing it for any reason other than that is literally who he is at his core, and it's cool to see. It's one of those that it's like if I look at it from, I don't know, I'll call it realistic point of view, I don't see, it doesn't feel real. Like a real person would ever do that, but like I'm so bought in. I feel like that's another part of Erickson that like just can convince me of like. I mean, there's this whole book. It's all about like forgiveness and taking showing mercy and stuff like that. And he does it again and again and again. Taking the high road pays off, and it pays off, and like. It almost sounds like a silly lesson like you teach your kids, like, see, and that's why you take the high road. Good things can happen. It's like it almost feels like that, but like it doesn't feel like that at all. But like on paper, it kind of does, where it's just like, oh, it's just all these people just doing the right thing and they get rewarded for it. But here I am like, hell yeah, do the right thing, forgiveness. And like, I don't know. I just didn't expect that going into this type of series and through this book. But I'm like, more of it. I want more of that now. I just thought it was very cool.
Well, and maybe it's cliche, but I generally feel fact or fiction that there are certain things that when we encounter it renew in us a sense of pride in the fact that we're people, like in the fact that we're human beings with human wills. And I think one of those things is when people choose nobility in the face of despair.
Yeah.
Like when people find a way to make that choice. And that's what we see with Jacovian, and that's what we see with the Capistan recruits, is they ultimately choose nobility in the face of their entire town and the thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, like all being lost pointlessly so. And they choose the more noble route, one of mercy, one of redemption, one of fierceness. Ferocity is certainly the case as well. But they choose to live on and to press on and to forge something new. And I think that it's just one of those things that just like instills a deep sense of pride.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It made me like, it's just, yeah. I feel like if you were to ask me what I was excited about for this book when we were like getting to Capistan or something, it would have been The Gathering, right? The Talani Moss. Like, this is their book. Like, this is what I'm here for. And then at a certain point, I was like, and not that, because The Gathering happens and it's so very just like, it happened. I mean, it's relevant. It's certainly relevant, but it's so, and I think it's realistic. Like, it isn't this big, like, huge event. It's a sad event, and it happens quickly, and that's just, and then we move on. And at Covian, ultimately those two storylines tie together at the end in like a perfect way that, as soon as it happens, you're like, oh, obviously, like, it's so right. It's so right. But I wasn't really expecting it until it happened. But as soon as the first Covian stuff happens at Capistan, I was just like, I wasn't actively not caring about The Gathering anymore or the Talani Moss, but like, all I cared about was like all right, more at Covian. What's gonna happen to Covian? And yeah, it's just it's so interesting how I just would be very curious to see, like, when Erickson sat to write this, had to have been the plan. That can't have like emerged through his writing. I mean, maybe it did, but like, it's just such a pivot. It's such a pivot. I think that he does that a lot. It seems like, of like, oh, now we're gonna pivot to something else, and we're gonna make you care about that, and kind of forget the other stuff, and then we're gonna mash them together in the most perfect way that you should have seen coming, but of course you didn't, because I'm Steven Erickson, and I'm fucking smarter than you. I'm like, all right. But yeah, to me, it's just like, of course, we had to have the disappointment of The Gathering and it not go the way we were expecting it to, so that Covian could then take that. So that then the Maibi could have her realm be created. And it's just like, it really is one of those, like, Charlie with the board with the lines on it and everything. Like, how on earth do you plot this? It's mind blowing to me. So
it is.
I mean, there's so much more to talk about. We could talk about it all day. I could, but unless there's anything else you really want to talk about, specific moments, maybe let's talk about the book as a whole in the series. Kind of what it means for the series, and then we can jump into those questions. Or maybe that is a question. Was that one of the questions?
There was a couple of us, like, what are you looking forward to in future books? But yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Write that down for your book clubs. Write that down.
What is this sort of? There you go. What are you looking forward to future books? No, sorry. Question number 4. What do you think this book is within the series as a whole? There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's crack over the questions. Let's start with that one. So what do you think, Matt? Like, how did you overall feel about this book in the series? Like, what do you think it does for the series?
Yeah, I think that I kind of want to tie it into like the future books just briefly, because I think that this is kind of like we've been given like two paths with like gardens and Deadhouse, and they kind of come together from memories, but we kind of knew that coming in, just because we had that knowledge. But now it's like we finally get to move on with all three of these together, because this almost felt like while we were moving forward, it's more of a sideways sideways to Deadhouse, and I knew that going forward, so like we weren't really gonna be like progressing the story so much in this book, which didn't bother me. But I do feel like this did tie those together in a way that is like really like now this, it almost does need to, like, you need all three to move forward. Where, yeah, I don't know. I've not really read any other series like that. I am curious to hear, like, I think this would have been a very different book if he wrote this before Deadhouse. I think Deadhouse would have been a very different book if you wrote it after Memories of Ice. And there's a part of me that really wants to know what that would have been like. If for no other reason than I think maybe more people would stay on for the series, because I think there are people that read Gardens and people are like, just read Deadhouse. Like, that's what I think people kind of say, like, you've walked the chain of dogs, right? Like you're one of us now, kind of thing. Like and that's like, like you have to get over the hump. Your initiation is reading Deadhouse Gates. But I still don't. I could see why that's still not enough. But if you read this, I do think this is just the perfect, culmination of his writing. Just period. I think his writing is the strongest in this book. And then now we've got all three pieces of the puzzle. We can now move forward. So yeah, that's it's such an interesting book 3 because of just what happened in real life with him losing the manuscript or whatever. It shouldn't really work. It should have been like, that sucks, bro. You got to write it again. Like, you can't write a book 2 in a series and be like, yeah, I'm just going to go to another continent with all new characters. Screw it. You can wait a whole nother book. Like, that should not work. And if I could see, it's happened in the Dark Tower a little bit, like a long wait, and then you get like I could see people reading Deadhouse and being like, what? Like, I waited for the, like, what? But as, obviously we don't have to deal with that problem since they're all out. We can just be like, all right, next book. So it's less of a problem for me, but I could see it being a problem, and I'm surprised the publishers were like, "Yeah, we like it." So very interesting.
I'm glad they were, though.
What's that?
I'm very glad they were, though. I'm very glad they did like
it's
it.
like a happy accident that he lost that. Yeah. I would be curious to know. I'm sure there's interviews with him out there, or if we ever get to talk to him or something, just to be like. Were there any things that when you sat down to write Memories of Ice the first time, things were a very, you had a plot point in mind that it was going to be this, and then because you wrote Deadhouse Gates, the either completely changed, got removed, or like is it exactly the same book it was going to be the first time? Or was it Covey not even in it the first time, and that kind of thing? I would wonder those types of things and how that then shapes the future, of the series. So I don't know if that answers really the question, but
no, I think it's great.
It's good. It's a good book in the series.
Well, and then one thing I'll just add to that, because you're hitting a lot of the same points I was thinking of as well. I think that this book also shows us the payoff of this, like of having this as being a series. We really, throughout this book, there are so many moments in which our now shared knowledge and shared language through the first 2 books, like what we have like with each other as fellow readers is what we have with Stephen Erickson as a reader to an author. Like every book in the series gives you language, gives you terms, understanding, lore, history, events. Like all of it is a shared language. That's how language works. It works based on relationships. And we're seeing the payoff of that throughout this book, of having both Deadhouse Gates and having Gardens of the Moon before it. And for me, that was really, really cool. Like meeting Carul and finding out about the Warrens made the Warrens feel so much more significant, and understanding, for example, the implications that has on what was going on with the Soul Taken and the Warrens back in Deadhouse Gates, like the House of the Azath and the greater significance of what that means. And then again, that feeds back into Deadhouse Gates and Gardens of the Moon. The fact that like we're learning more about the houses and their structures, and then that again feeds into events that happened in the previous books. And so it's just like, and then it opens up all these questions too. Like now that we know that, like it cannot be a coincidence, although it might be, but like Opon chooses Paran and guards the moon, saves his life, leaves him, and now he's master of the deck in this one. I mean, it's just, wouldn't that be a strange stroke of luck if that were the case? Wait, who's the god of luck again?
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what I mean. It's like there's this payoff that comes in because of this understanding. And it's not a payoff because Steven Erikson has drilled this into your head again and again, so you've memorized it, but because there were these significant characters and significant events that have helped us to have a relationship to these things through them. And losing characters along the way has also helped with that. And then, like, we'll talk more about this through one of the other questions, but I think, one other area that just shows you the payoff the best is just the Jagud. Like, we have learned so much about them, and without even really we have no main character that's like a Jagud other than the fact that we had like a half Jagud, right? Mm-hmm. in the Deadhouse Gates. Like, but they've mostly been like a Buki Man style character in a way, but yet at the end of this one, we're like, it's a lot more complicated than that actually. Right, it is, and it's just like so fascinating. And then ultimately, like Omnibus Falak kind of becomes like a really important element at the end of this particular book, with slowing down the corruption from the Chain God. But it's just like that's really cool. Like background lore coming alive in this really significant way, having these characters or character types that have been consistent with the books, really paying off in a huge way. So I just think that's really cool, and I think we're only going to get more of that with more books, and I'm just really excited for it.
It's crazy, like, it's crazy the amount of stuff that happens in this book. I think that, like, it's crazy. It is one of those that you could literally walk in on someone having a conversation about this book and barely understand any of the words they're saying. More than any, I think about like big, series like Game of Thrones or like The Dark Tower or anything like that. I feel like you could tell somebody, like in layman's terms, what happens in each of those books, and like you could leave out some details and they'd be fine. You literally, you could not do that with this. This is like an actual real, it feels like a real history that we are getting to like discover through a great story as well. It's like, it's literally like, I think Steven Erikson has just ultimately tricked us into learning. Like, son of a bitch. Like, he's just tricked us into learning and having a great time doing it. That's what it feels like. I feel like there's enough there too where I know I'm only retaining like I already don't have a great memory, but I feel like I'm only retaining like 50%, or you know what I mean? Like that's why the discussions are going to be great for a reread too, that I need them. Or like if I'm reading them with Bria, I'm like, I need this. Like, I don't think I could do this without it. Yeah. Because it is so dense, and like he has written a full world with history and lore, but it's not just dumping, and it's not like you said. It's not just like a rug pull at the end that the author is like, here's the reveal, gotcha, isn't that cool? It's like, no, we get to organically get those reveals. And I think that's the cool. You feel rewarded for putting in the work. It doesn't feel like work, but you do. You get rewarded organically, and I think that is super fun. Instead of just like wait to the end of the book and we'll drop the big reveal, the big twist, and no, you get it constantly throughout. There are revelations that he does not like. By the way, reader, here's the revelation. I'm writing it out for you. Don't forget. It's like you could just. I'm sure, like I said, like there are probably tons of things in here that we just missed and that are right there. And I think that is just, not that we're talking about what that means in the series as a whole, but I just, it kind of blows my mind every time you were just talking about things that happen. I'm like, yeah, that did happen in this book, and that happened in this book, and that happened in this book. I'm like, there's only so many pages in this book. How did all of this happen in this book. It's crazy. But yeah, you're saying that that tied into another one of the questions. You're talking about the Amtos Phalak, right? Do you want to? Should we jump into that one?
So this is I will be shameless in this. There are when we went about putting some questions together, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to see what questions people had asked. Questions, if there were things that people were really confused about or so on, because I wanted to see like what things people were talking about. And there were a lot of things that I didn't include because I didn't think that they would be very good questions, just because there were stuff that's like factual questions, like what was this, right? Did I forget about this? And people just answered it very succinctly on Reddit or in other places. But there were a few that I thought were really interesting questions, and so I took them and then I extended them a little bit. And one of the ones I encountered, and this was actually from Reddit, so if Reddit has given us anything good, it was maybe this. But exactly. Yeah.
I like Reddit. I like Reddit, everybody.
Yeah, so I'm not actually against Reddit, but I will knock on Reddit all the time. I think that it's important to make sure the Reddit ego doesn't get too inflated. But I found this one was really interesting because they brought up a particular duality, but there's more of them in the book that follow along the same theme. So I'll just go and read it as I wrote it, and then kind of explain what's going on here. So, what do you think the relationship is, if any, to the new land created by the Mybe's dream within the Beast Warren 2, so that duality, to Amtos Phalak within Burn, so that Warren being used to slow the corruption of the Chain God, to Shadow Throne being on the doorstep to the Tista Eater, to the Gate of Shadow being within Dragnipur. And so now granted, some of this kind of relies on some of the learning we've done through the previous books, but all of these things were hit in this book. All of these concepts were hit in this book or expanded through this book. But that's really interesting, also considering that we learned about the source of the Warrens being Karul's flesh and blood within this book, but there's this is apparent nesting that's going on, where there are things that are coalescing in a very interesting way. Warrens coming together, different factions coming together, and all in the background of, in this book, we see the houses amassing troops, in a way, right? The members of their house. So I was curious, like, did you notice any of that? Did that ever stand out to you? Or like, what do you think what do you think Erickson's doing here, like weaving this all together?
I'm going to be honest, I read this question like 5 times, and I was just, it was like I felt my brain melting. I think this is just one of those that, like, obviously I think we made a note how it was happening, of like these old ladies in these perpetual dream states, and worlds are being created inside of them. Can't just be a coincidence. But as far as like the Shadow Throne and stuff, and the gate, I feel like I'm at the point now where I'm like, take me wherever you want to take me, Steven Erickson, because I got no idea. I have no idea. So I'll let you answer it.
Yeah.
That's beyond my level of of intelligence.
Yeah. So because the thing I always kind of wonder is, like, when the first dominoes fall, usually what I imagine is that further dominoes fall, right? And so I kind of wonder in this case if we have this situation where we're starting to see like the first coalescing, and then that's just going to further then lead to more and more coalescing until ultimately what I suspect, and this is kind of what I'm wondering, is like, I wonder what happens if Karul dies. Like, that's ultimately what I wonder when I saw these things all kind of coming together. Like, I'm pretty sure Dragnipur is going to get broken at some point. I think that we're going to see Draconis be freed. I think that there's ultimately going to be some kind of showdown with the Chain God and the Warren of Chaos. But it just, like, with this sort of coalescing, it like sort of harkens this imagination of the factions coming together. But if they're coming together, who are they opposing? Seems to me like that's the Warren of Chaos. And ultimately, like, I kind of wonder, like, well, if Karul dies, then, like, what happens? Because all of this entanglement sort of is entangled around the Warrens and around him. And so that's where my mind is going.
Yeah, it seems like nothing good would happen. I think they'd be in some deep doo-doo if Karul dies, because really, it's like the lifeblood. I mean, it is the Warrens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they can exist without him being alive.
Yeah, but one of the central things of this is that like he's poisoned, right?
He's poisoned. Yeah.
His sense of immortality is in question,
Yeah.
right?
But they found a way to slow it. I feel like, I just feel like they're gonna have to figure out a way to keep him alive. I think they have to, unless like they can figure out a way for someone to ascend to whatever level of God he is, and like, because we've learned that with a lot of the Warrens too. Like some of them, especially like the I don't know what they're called, but like not the ruined ones, but whatever, the poisoned ones or whatever. Like the Amtos Flak one, there was someone in there, right? There's someone in there, and like there was the one on the boat in Deadhouse Gates to like almost like freeze it. So I don't know if someone will need to ascend to, basically make an ultimate sacrifice of like maybe the Warrens will like be permanently frozen, all of them. Like, and Karul does die, but someone needs to just freeze them so they don't disappear, or they can't be poisoned anymore, or something like that. Or maybe it gets really crazy and he dies, and Warrens are gone. Like that would be wild if Warrens just cease to exist. I mean, I can't. There's no way we're going there. And then Buke comes in. Maybe Buke will be the ultimate. He'll make the ultimate sacrifice. He's gonna take Karul's place, and his veins will bleed the Warrens now. Yeah, but yeah, honestly, I don't know. It is interesting to think about that.
Yeah, well, and it's just like Lady Envy, and so it's interesting that he told her, and that she's related to because she's related to Draconis, right? Or who is she related to? I'm missing.
Her.
Isn't Draconis her father?
I think no.
I think that was.
Oh my gosh! I thought it was just like
thing.
Yeah, maybe
that was the whole thing. It's like Draconis and like Animanarine fought, and like Draconis got killed, and he wanted the sword, but then he's like her father, and I thought that was like the complication because she didn't do anything to stop that.
I think you're right, but the one that was asking Perron to free Draconis was Nightshade.
Nightshade, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think like there's like Lady Envy, so like she's like the daughter of Draconis, but then like Karul tells her, and so so it's just. It leads me to wonder. I could see different directions going. I could like see like maybe there's a world where like Karul dies and like she has to take over, or so on and so forth, right? Maybe he just like goes to sleep, and then in his dreams he helps other people dream, and just this infinite recursion of dreams. I don't know, right? Like it's just
Leonardo DiCaprio shows up, spinning tops and shit. And,
you never know how you got here. You just know that you are here.
Yeah.
So I don't. But yeah, definitely. That's why I thought it was kind of a fun question, because it's just like it seems like something is happening, and there's a lot of interesting questions that get raised in this book that are just sort of out there. It does make me I'm really curious.
Yeah. Just him constantly.
What's going to happen here?
He just one-ups himself. He's like, oh, cool. You thought the mortal plane was confusing? I'm going to make friggin' dream planes within Warrens, within other dream planes, and we're just going to create other worlds within worlds, you fools.
Yeah. I'm just ready for the book that we get where it's like people all of a sudden stop and they ask, like, wait, hold on. If like the Warrens are Karul's flesh and blood, then like where did like the Warren of Chaos come from, and where is the chain god and all this? And then we just find out that those were like Karul's like frat years, and he just really trashed himself. Like, guys, I made some mistakes. Okay.
I feel great shame. Yeah, that's funny.
He's like, that one's actually my kidney. It's a pretty bad shape. My liver, sorry, not kidney. My liver. It's a pretty bad shape.
That's funny. All right, let's bump into another one. So, we'll just read the next one on the list. So, I think we both kind of talked about this during the part, but like, do we, after some reflection, or maybe do we still think that the night of High House Death is Baden? And I'm locked in. I think it's.
Yep.
If it's not, then I do feel a little misled. But again, like I think this is one of those perfect examples of like, he does not. There is no like gotcha is Bowden. It's like, oh, there's some clues there, and it's probably him, but he's not flat out just telling us for the sake of a cool reveal. It's like, do you remember? And if you don't, right? If we never put two and two together that this was Bowden, and then later on we find out it is, like, I don't care so much. It's just like you're rewarded for reading closely or just remembering, but there's no downside if you don't. But I do think this is Bowden, which I really hope so. It'd be very interesting because he was the first the Talon. He was the first Talon we met, and we have not heard of the Talon since. So like now he's a Talon, and he's like in a very powerful position. Does that are we gonna get more Talons into the mix here? Are there any more Talons? I can't remember. Maybe in Dead House it said that there aren't any more except for him. I can't remember.
No, they were wiped out by the claws.
Okay,
so they're very. There could be more, but they're all
few, right?
like him. They're very few, and they're in secret, and they can only persist by basically being raised by Talons. Like you have to be like adopted or the child of a Talon to be one because they're so secret.
But he might harbor some resentment toward the Claw. Now he's in a position that he's the High House of Death. Death does not like Quick Ben. Who's the god? Who's
Hood?
Hood. Yeah. Who is in-house Death? I don't know what position, king or whatever they call it, the leader. I'm assuming. Right?
Well, Hood is just the god of.
He's just the god of death.
Like because the whole structure is only for the mortals.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
but if Bowden is the Knight of High House Death, would he still answer to Hood?
Yeah, to Hood. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So like, Hood doesn't. He's not on anybody's side, and he particularly does not like Quick Ben, who is in a very powerful position of the Malazan army. So, I don't know. I think that could present some interesting things if we bring back up the Talon versus Claw, but it also might never show back up. But I don't know. By the end, I liked Bowden. I was very okay with him never showing up again, but I'm happy to see him, I guess. Which remind me after this to talk about it. I think we should lead this into Itkovian and Whiskey Jack deaths after you go.
Yeah, and so I do really think it's as Bowden as well. I didn't think about it at the time until you had mentioned it, and then it just kind of clicked that made a lot of sense, and it fit all the puzzle pieces for that character. I thought Bowden was a really cool character from Dead House Gates, and I would love to see what happens more with him because he, in a very serious way, is a tragic character. I think that we get a snapshot of his life where he is in the thick of it. He's in the churn, the turmoil, and ultimately dies in that. But we don't really get to see like a justice, like a just resolution. Like it's a fair resolution. It's a good resolution for him in that book. But we in a way see him in like one of the hardest periods of his life. Maybe his whole life has been like that, which would only make it more tragic. But then that kind of fits the whole theme of like, maybe Hood did him a mercy by taking away his memories, and like we do know that to some degree that's kind of like what Hood's job is to bring some recompense back to the dead by giving them peace in the afterlife, but not for Bowden. Bowden still has purpose, even though he doesn't know what it is yet. So I'm really excited, and if it's not Bowden, if it's somebody else, I mean, I'm still going to be excited. But I think this would be really cool to see a different resolution for him now through this. And it wouldn't at all cheapen what happened in Dead House Gates, which is all amazing, right?
Yeah. But I think that's a good transition to talk about character deaths in general in the series, and then specifically our two biggest ones in this book, I think arguably, that I can think of, which are Whiskey Jack and Itkovian. So death is very not permanent in this series. And if this is Bowden, then most main important characters that have died have come back. I think, other than Coltane, and he was supposed to. It just they goofed up who was who. But death is very not permanent, but I don't. As of right now, I don't feel like it's a crutch. I could see the potential for it to be. Like, I don't ever want to stop. It sounds weird, but like sometimes I want characters to be dead for good. I don't want it to just be like, oh, they died, but like,
that's important.
Yeah, it takes away the impact of like, like you said, it would cheapen their deaths, and so I think that there's the potential for it to go in a direction that I'm not gonna really love. If all these seats in these houses are opening up, and if just like everyone who dies constantly is popping back up of like, oh, they're this person now. It's just like, okay, like. So I don't think that's gonna happen, and that leads to Itkovian. As much as I love Itkovian, I think right now like top 3 character of the whole series, if not mine one. I pray that he stays dead. I don't want him to come back. Let that as good as he is, and I want to see more of him. I just think this is it's just perfection. And I just want it to be, let it be a little, snapshot in a 10-book series of perfection and of, just like heroism and like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to see him come back. Whiskey Jack, on the other hand, I think I'd be okay either way. There's a part of me that hopes he stays dead just because I want to see what that means. Itkovian, I don't think him coming back would really mean a lot for the characters that we've met so far or anything. It would just be for me as the reader of like, yeah, he's back. I love Itkovian. Where like Whiskey Jack means a lot to a lot of people, and I want to see him stay dead to see how this impacts everybody. You know what I mean? Like almost everybody we met, he has made an impression on. Even if it's so much as like he's having a conversation with someone and someone's watching that conversation, they immediately know like, I want to follow that guy. You know what I mean? Like there's just, he just like, or he has an aura of respect around him. And I think a lot of things like a lot of the army needs Whiskey Jack. And so I want to see how it operates without him. I don't want him to just come back. But he is also very wronged and such a terrible death, and it sucks. And it's so the opposite of Itkovian of like being a hero of like, I mean, he protected Silver Fox, but it's like he just slipped and he died to this like loser guy. I don't want that to be how it is, but that's how it is sometimes. He's just a man.
Yep.
He's just a man. Yep. He was, too. He wasn't prideful. That wasn't why he didn't get his knee repaired, but he didn't want to like put anybody out. Almost like not selfish enough. He was just too selfless to have his knee repaired or leg, and unfortunately that was the undoing of him. But I don't know. That one I'm conflicted on. Itkovian, I think I would be not happy if he came back. Be happy to be proven wrong. I'm sure like if he did, I would trust Erickson to do it in a way that I'm like, man, this kind of sucks, but like, yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't doubt that, but I just feel like it's just such a perfect little pocket of an unforgettable character. I would hate for it to be drawn out or tarnished in any way. So that's where I'm at for those two. Where are you at?
Yeah, well, and I always like raising the question because, I mean, obviously today, like with pop culture, Marvel movies and Marvel comics, it's really, really popular. And not only are we getting, character resurrections, we're also getting actor resurrections and actress resurrections. But I think that there's this real problem where if you not only have the line where the readers stop caring about the deaths because people could just come back any time, but there's also a point to which we have to wonder why the characters don't operate in such a way that they could come back. Like in Marvel movies, for example, it can become like characters coming back can be so prevalent. You almost are like, why don't they just always operate under the basis that someone has a resurrection spell or whatever, right? Yeah. Like it's just like, it's like you could say it's like, oh, it only happens like 0.001% of times, but it's like, but it happens all the time in these stories. Like they're just constantly like they're basically walking around with the priest that's like level 20. I can just res anybody anytime. And I think so far in this story, it's been very clear that ultimately death can be refused. I mean, we get that in the first book, like Opon intercedes on Bron's behalf, Bron comes back. Like, death does not have to be final, does not have to be permanent. People can even negotiate with Hood, right? Like it is always possible. But so far, I think it's been handled very well. And I think that one of the things that helps draw the consistency is if characters are allowed to be resolved, right? Like for me, I'm in the same boat because I think Sokovian is a resolved character. Like he's a character that has earned his peace, right? So to speak. And like you would hope that the characters of the world would see it that way too. That, like he has done enough. Like eventually everybody has done enough. And it's time for them to rest. And I think that I would be very excited to see Whiskey Jack come back. I don't know if I would want more of the bridge burners to come back. I think that for me, Whiskey Jack dying in this book is significant because it shows us a finality to the bridge burners. I don't necessarily think that we need this to be the finality of Whiskey Jack to also have that. I think it's okay for him to come back and for it to be something new. The bridge burners are done, right? It's over, right? They're not coming back. They're all dead. Right, quote all dead. They've all been listed in the ranks of the fatalities. So I think Whiskey Jack's death, we see that death. I think that characterizes that very, very well. And I think that death has served a purpose for that, for us to understand that this chapter is closed. And I mentioned that in the last video too, that one of the significant things you see, this is kind of a common trope of like the heroes keep losing things even as the stakes increase. So it leaves you wondering what's going to happen next, right? Like Moonspawn is gone, the bridge burners are dead, right? So it's like leaving us with the sense of like we're spending all of our ammunition, but we're not even at the final boss yet. So like what's going on here? And I think that his death has served that. So if he comes back, I would not feel like it cheapened that death at all. I mean, it would be weird if he was like, "Okay, guys, we're restarting the band. We're getting the bridge burners back together." Yeah. I'm like, no. But I don't think that's how it would happen. So yeah, I kind of feel like it's not final. I don't think that's a permanent one. Maybe I'm wrong. But I kind of get the feeling that we're going to see Whiskey Jack. I will call him Jack Whiskey coming back in a holy role.
Jake,
so.
I think we
yeah.
Whiskey Jake. I will say though, like as much as I really like Whiskey Jack, and I would be very happy for him to come back, like you said. But there is a part of me that I would be right. He does. I don't think he feels fully resolved like the way Kovian does. I think you're right. It is symbolic. His death is symbolic of the death of the bridge burners and like an important closed chapter for the Malazan army. But I don't feel like his story is done yet. But part of me would, I think, really like, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, like that is the most realistic thing in war that there can be, is that like not everyone's going to get a resolution. The best people sometimes aren't going to get a resolution. And at the end of the day, he did die protecting Silver Fox. And I think that Silver Fox is going to be a very important person. So like at the end of the day, he did die doing, it's not like he like tripped and fell and like landed on a spike on in his brain and he just like oops, like it wasn't like that and then he like pooped his pants or something. Like there was some like he still died to like an evil person because of a mistake with his leg, and but he died doing something noble. So I think it'd be really ballsy for Erickson to be like, shit happens, man. Like it does. Like not all these people are gonna get clean resolutions. Not everyone gets to come back. Like your favorite character, and and it wouldn't feel like he's doing it just because like, oh, you like Whiskey Jack? Too bad, I'm killing him. It's like he was a fatality. That moment really felt like if you are playing D&D, like roll D20. Roll D20 to live here, and you roll 1 and you snap your leg and you die. Like that's what it felt like to me. Is like that was like a pivotal moment. You didn't take care of your leg earlier, and you want to step up and do the right thing. You rolled a 1. Whiskey Jack rolled a 1.
This reminds me of sorry to like take us on a tangent, but I always really liked watching the Glass Cannon live shows, and I've told you about them before too. But there's There's this episode that just captures that idea super well, where one of the guys is a spellcaster, and he's like, they're in the thick of it. He just cannot figure out what to do. He's like, fuck, I pass. I don't know what to do. They're like, you pass, just cast a spell. He's like, I don't have anything I could do. Nothing is gonna do this. And it goes back to one of the characters who's like on death's door, and then the GM is just like, sorry guys, like I told you, you have to come together as a group to like make this work. You had your chances. And he's like, I'm doing it, I'm rolling. And so he rolls and he kills off one of the characters, right? Who, like, we saw it coming, we knew it was going to happen if they couldn't stop it, and he kills off one of the characters, and it's like this moment. And then it gets back around the spellcaster. He's like, this sucks, man. Okay, you know what? I'm going to cast Magic Missile. And so he casts Magic Missile. The dude had 1 hit point left. He kills the bad guy. And the whole group is just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you had Magic Missile? He's like, I didn't know how many hit points he has. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, you cast Magic Missiles.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, maybe we can like undo this. And Troy's just like, no.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the moment. Like, he's gone. Like,
that's a real story.
The character's dead. Yeah, it's like these, like it happens. Like characters die. Like it happens.
Yeah, it's realistic,
right? Like and like now your character has to move forward, like knowing, and that's real too. Like,
and you'll always remember it too.
Yeah,
I think it's a memorable part, and like I wonder, I find stuff like that really exciting because it's very it's so like I don't know, that just is like human. That him not knowing what to do and like. Yeah, it's like, oh, you should, you should have just tried. But so yeah, I'm torn on Whiskey Jack. I'm more excited to see what it means for the army without him. I think at the end of the day, if you took him away, he's made his impact. I think people will, like almost like in a martyr sort of way. Mm-hmm. I think so many people respected him and loved him that they will step up in his absence. And maybe even come together in his absence. I think maybe that could be the uniting force if they're bickering, because we've left all these factions in an interesting place of like some are staying in the T-Standee are staying in Coral, Corlat is some of the Talani Moss are going to a sail to fight the T-Standee. The Barghast are going back to their home and like. I think they're going, or at least maybe it was Tool and Kalava that were going to the Barghast, right?
Barghast.
Yeah, so kind of like a split. We might need, like you said, this is just a mini, a problem on the way to the Cripple Gun, and like now we're separating. We're gonna need, what investment are the T-Standee and are they gonna have in helping the Malazan army again? And I think Whiskey Jack could be that that glue that brings everybody together. So yeah, it's gonna be that. I think that'd be a tough decision for Steven Erikson of like how do you do it without cheapening his death? Like what do you bring him back as?
Whiskey Jack the White.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Maybe if anyone's proven that they could take the place of Karul, I feel like it could be Whiskey Jack. Like he's got it. But yeah, I don't want him to be dead, but I from like a story standpoint, I kind of hope he is. I definitely hope Kobe is though. Which it's just perfect the way it is. So all right, maybe we do one or two more and then we're approaching 2 hours here, so
yeah. So well, I feel like I'm obligated to ask this since the name of the book is Memories of Ice. So, what do you think kind of best captures the title of the book from what you've read?
It's so interesting because like there's just the whole fact that the tie to ice with the Barghast, period. That like that already has just in history in general. Like how histories can be like frozen and then unfrozen, through time. But then there's also the memories, when the ice melts or whatnot, when Kovian, cries and the ice melts, how that history can be breathed back into creation and be new and provide life. to me, that's kind of what it felt like to me, is like the transition of the memories are stuck in the ice, and as the ice melts, the history is renewed in a way that creates rather than destroys. So that's kind of what I took out of it. I don't know. I feel like he name dropped this in the book like 100 times. There was like a million people that were like, and thus the memories of ice. And I was like, all right, like it's in like 3 poems, 3 characters say it, but that's kind of what I took out of it. But I definitely am not. I don't feel like I know for certain or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in the same camp. One of the things that I kept coming back to as I was thinking about it was the realization that the Talani Mas cannot know when their mission is done.
Mm-hmm.
And that what that unraveled into for me was this idea that they have been around for essentially, I mean, like hundreds of thousands of years in this eternal hunt and the Jagat, and that single war has defined their entire people. Like, I mean, so much so that they have become like their people are changed, right? They're now the Talan Imas. They are the undead people. And so it almost for me, like, especially with the encounter with the COVID in this, like it almost to me kind of brought up this idea that they are stuck, like they are more like encased in ice, if we want to use that metaphor, than like anybody else we've encountered, because they're essentially stuck to a particular moment in time, stuck to a particular haunted moment in which those who could wield ice, the Jagut, lorded over them, and they rebelled, and that single moment has now been the moment they've lived in for hundreds of thousands of years. They are completely unable to progress as a society past that moment. And the only thing that really brings them any sort of redemption is for Ikovian to take on their pain and to release those memories like back into the earth that they might be has dreamed up. Which I just, it was like a super cool moment. But yeah, that's the one thing I kind of coming back to was that. I mean, because a lot of this book kind of centers around their gathering, right, and them coming back together and them having their first flesh and blood, and like why is that significant? They're the first like flesh and blood bone caster because they're essentially stuck in time. Like they may be undead and can live for 100,000 years, but they are stuck, just plain stuck, because of that war. And they even mentioned like part of the reason why they wanted to become Talon was because they could not overcome the walls of ice the Jagut would build to repel them, and so by being undead, they could travel as dust on the wind. And so it just I thought that was. I thought that was just such a cool name for the book, and I think there's a lot that you could interpret and take from it. But that was one of the coolest realizations, like in this book, was that question, and it wasn't just posed to us as readers; it was posed like it was posed to the Thalimas as well. But like, how would you know when you're done? And like that was devastating for me. Like when I read that, I was like, that is crazy. Like what they've given up when they sacrificed for essentially an endless mission.
It's a very cool. Different like take on or it was a lot different than I expected going in for this book, especially with the prologue. It feels like it's gonna be like a hell yeah, Talani Mas, rise up. And then it's like, oh shit, I feel like these guys are in pain. They are desperate to be done. So very just different than my expectations. And I think expectations that I think Erickson wants you to have leading up to that gathering. I think you expect something to happen one way or another, but to me it wasn't that. Like I think Silver Fox's reaction is the reader's reaction, I think, of just like, what? Like we came all this way and like that's what you want after all this time? We're here. We can do this. And they're like, please, we just want to rest. So yeah, really, really cool and different. Like I said, I don't know if I'm just conditioned because of all other fantasy books I've read, but it's always just like, yeah, like in every other fantasy book, it would have been they have the gathering, they unite, and then they go take down the Barghast religious nut. Like, you know what I mean? Like in here, it's just, I think that's what's so cool. You continuously just subverts like your expectations, and that was a big one of the book for sure. And it all comes together at the end in a perfect way that it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way for the Talani Moss. So I think I said the Talani Moss were going to fight the Teast Eater, but it's the other. It's like a section of the a tribe of the Talani Moss. I don't remember what they're called though, what tribe they are. But she was the one that was on the boat that Lady Envy and them get on. So just part of the other Talani Moss have been released, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, let's do one more. Is there one more speaking to you, and then we can wrap up?
Well, I was just gonna wrap up with, is there anything else that you're maybe looking forward to for future books, or not even just for the next one, but like for future books in the series that we haven't discussed so far?
Honestly, like, I don't know if I'm just conditioned now after the 3 books. I just have no expectations. I'm just totally along for the ride at this point. Like, I couldn't even, like, obviously I think we're gonna get some kind of we have the Fiddler and the he's rejoined the Malazans, and I think Dujek is going back with the Malazans with what was it? It's not Lucina. What's the older sister's name that's leading? Tavor, yeah. So I do think we must, like, I almost feel like we have to go there. We have to have that, or at least be going there. Like, we've done Dead House, we've done Memories of Ice. Now we're finally fully caught up. Now we need to move forward, and to me, that is like it's necessary to find out what's going on with Felison and when they fight the Malazan and what comes out of that. So I would hope we get that in the next book, but it's one of those that, like, because it's now happened 3 times in a row or 2 times in a row, where like the next book we get isn't really like a progress. It's more of like a sideways thing that, like, I wouldn't really care. I think I just am, along for the ride. I think I'm trying to think of like characters that, like, I'd really like to see sooner than later. I think Tool and Kalava, I'm just curious about them. I think right now, if I'm being honest, the Assail with the Talani Moss, I'm the least interested in. But I'm, it's one of those that, like, if that's where we go, I don't doubt I'm going to be very interested when we get there. But just with all the characters we dealt with in this book, I think, like, I'd love to see Tool and, like, talk now with, like, the mortal sword of Tog. Just, like, what the hell that means going forward. I don't know. With Whiskey Jack dead, though, I feel like I'd like to see Fiddler and Felison and Hebrick again. And I'd like to see Tool some more. And I think maybe they're the ones I'm like I would be most like to see, followed by Assail, and then, like, I don't know. I don't really know about the Teast ND. I'm more interested with Corlat than I am with, like, the Teast ND. And obviously Animander Rake is awesome, but he kind of always is just in and out, so I'm kind of expecting that. Where Corlat, I feel like I'm fairly attached to now, and especially with Whiskey Jack's death. I can't remember. Do you remember where? Because it's her and her brother. Where are they headed?
Yep. They're hunting down Keller.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, I think, I would love to get more of that. Yeah. And I'm sure they'll get there, and and I'm gonna be like, yeah, kill his ass, and they'll be like, we forgive you, and I'll be like, yes, forgiveness. Like the forgiveness, he'll be like, I'm released, turn into ash and float away, and I'm sure that's exactly how it's gonna go. All right, yeah. How about you?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, you hit up a lot of the ones. So I'll just go to. There's a few other questions I had that I'll just kind of I won't ask them. Just kind of dip into them because they speak to themes that I am hoping that we'll get to revisit. I don't know that we revisit these in the next book, but I will say a couple of things I'm very interested in. Moonspawn just went into the freaking ocean. So, and now Coral is the home of the Teast Andy, which is really cool. But that also means that they have a fixture in the land again. And also keep in mind that, like, 1,000 Tista are strong enough to potentially not only change the face of the planet, but like potentially be a threat to the entire planet. And now they have a home on the planet. So that's kind of cool. And I'm really curious to see what that means.
And they're sharing it with Corvo Broach and Boschland too. They're like the only other people chilling there. Like, yeah, we'll stay in the black coral.
Black coral. But like this is kind of an interesting thing because also historically Lysine and Animator Rank have been opposed to each other, or at least have fought against each other. But one of the things that's made that so tough is that Animander Rank and the Tista have had Moonspawn, which, as we know now, has not only served to keep them mobile and out of the reach of the Empire, but also has served to ensure that there's been no significant clash, not a significant enough of a clash between the two to be devastating. I mean, keep in mind that like the most devastating battle we've seen between the Empire and the Tista was literally just them fighting Animander Rake, and that was it.
I don't want it. Don't tell me.
Yeah.
The Malaz are going to fight the Tista. I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want that either. But like, I do want to say that Moonspawn has served a dual purpose. It's both restrained the Tista and the power of their force by essentially keeping the Empire far enough away they've never needed to. But I think that's really fascinating. And then the other theme I just think is kind of cool is the fact that we know that the rent in Morn was caused by the Chain Shamala trying to, being so ambitious that they wanted to harness the Warren of Chaos. And that is what ultimately led to the downfall of their civilization and then led to the matron being stuck in that rent, being sort of eternally tortured. But now we see that there's, we have the crippled god who's threatening the Warrens, who also, uses the Warren of Chaos and notably did so through the Pandian Seer. But ultimately kind of speak to this idea that like the rent operates like a scar. And even if the corrupted god is gone, I don't know that that's really the finale, so to speak. I mean, it seems like ultimately the resolution has to be with the Warren of Chaos. Like either that's going to be around forever and this will be a recurring problem, or something else has to happen that ultimately resolves that as an issue. Like the rent expresses the wound that we now know exists, and that's the wound that is chaos. That's the sort of wound in the whole scheme of things. And the crippled god is just a manifestation of that right now. And so I'm really curious to see what sort of that means for the Pantheon and for the Warrens. And it feels like whatever happens, it seems like Quickben's probably going to be at the center of all of that. And I think that there's a few other very notable characters that are also going to be at the center of that as well. And so I'm very interested to see kind of what happens there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know the book's already written, but like we got to come back to the whole Soul Taken Deaver question, because there were a lot of open questions about Soul Taken and Ascensions and what the heck happened to that civilization of people.
Yeah.
Because in Deadhouse Gate, so like I'm also still very curious to learn more about this as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to see these themes.
It could be like that. It's so weird. It's like all the answers that I want, like are believable. Why, if we don't get them, it could make sense why we wouldn't, because it's like buried. But I am curious, and you know who else is Soul Taken? Is Buke. Maybe.
yeah. There you go.
Buke.
He just comes back. He's like, guys, I forgot to tell you all this stuff.
Yeah, he'll just come in, drop a little exposition, and then leave every book. Yep. Yeah. I like it. He'll be the new Krupp, which...
Yeah.
Come on. I mean...
And I was going to say, we haven't mentioned Krupp's name. I've been sort of winking. I've been sort of winking and nodding at him, but I do really feel like Krupp, I don't know which particular path. I think ultimately Krupp is going to be extremely significant, either as like an heir to Karul or a significant player in what happens with the Triple God and the Warren of Chaos.
I could even see other...
Yeah, it could be true.
Because I mean, right? She
is
imply that she's pregnant.
Yeah, we're pretty sure. Yeah, we were pretty sure that she's pregnant. I gotta remember her name all of a sudden, but
Kafal, something like that, or maybe that's her brother.
I know we have it written down here. So yeah, I know we have it written down. I'll remember in a second, but yeah, there's Well, I mean, I ultimately we haven't really been talking about him too much. There's just so much to talk
Kafal or
about. But
Hitan?
I think
I can't remember
Eden, yeah,
Heaton.
the H is silent. Yeah,
Oh,
at least
Eaton.
that's how they pronounce it in the
Eaton.
yeah, Eden, yeah,
Eaton.
yeah. So, but I think he's obviously gonna be a very important character. So I'd like to obviously see him come back up again. But yeah, we haven't really talked about him, not because he's not an important character. He's a massively important character, but we've talked about him a lot through the other 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to be talking about him some more. There's just a lot to talk
Yeah.
about.
Same with like
Yeah,
Silver Fox. We didn't really touch on
yeah,
Silver Fox, but like what
but
the hell?
obviously a huge
who
character,
that is?
really
Yeah.
important character from this. Yeah.
And another one that I feel like kind of showed up at the end that we got some resolution on was Taishrin. I mean, I probably never say it right, but like big.
I do like
revelations.
I do like how that's gone. I mean, that's yeah.
Yeah, because he got to witness it, and he's obviously very close with the scene. So, yeah, just whatever that means going forward. And I'm actually really excited to see more Lacine, just to see just even what we got at the end of Deadhouse Gates completely 180'd what I thought about her. And now I'm like, well, so where we go from here? What is she, what decisions is she going to make for the Empire, especially as the Cripple God emerges? So very curious to see more Lacine, which I'm assuming we will, because we didn't get. Yep. I mean maybe they dropped her name like 2 or 3 times in this book, but like nothing of relevance. Yep. So yeah, just lots of exciting things to look forward to. I don't think there's be anything I'd be disappointed if we follow a certain character or not.
Yeah, same.
Well, sweet, we did it. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I feel like we've only been talking for like 15, 30 minutes. Yeah. Like I don't know how some of these, because sometimes I'll watch reviews too, because I just like. I don't know. Yeah. Just like other people watching this, like it's just fun as a fan to listen to other people's interpretations and thoughts. And I'm like, they're doing like 30 minutes. I'm like, how? I feel like we barely scratched what we wanted to say, and we're at 2 hours. So I don't know, but yeah, if you watched, we appreciate you being here. Yep. And as of the day that we are recording, it is the week of Thanksgiving that this will come out. So with holidays and stuff coming up, right now is still, we'll need to talk as far as when we're going to start the next book. I think the reality is y'all can expect the first House of Chains video probably in January. I think that's just the reality with holidays and everything. So be patient. But it's coming. We are definitely going to be reading it. Maybe it will come sooner, but I would say that's probably a good place to, a good time to expect it. Just because obviously it will take us time to read it, and we're not even going to start it until we find a good time to do that. So, but I'm super stoked. I can't wait. So yeah, any closing thoughts?
No, just I'm very excited for the next one. The book actually just recently came in, so which is really, really cool. Yeah, like Matt said, just bear with us. I work as a professor, so I have this week off, which has been really awesome. And then we'll be hitting the end of the semester, which for me goes until the 23rd, and that's finals time. So things can get really busy. So I don't know how it will look in terms of the schedule, and then obviously after that's Christmas and New Year's. And so just be aware that this is we're very excited to get back in the next book, and we love all the people who've come by to share comments, whether or not you're gushing with us, or if you've got some critiques of my opinions or Matt's opinions. It's all good. That's fun. And we're just really excited to be able just to talk about it more. So definitely keep those coming, and then let us know if there's anything that we can be doing differently as well that can make it a better experience. Please let us know. If there's anything that you noticed that we didn't, but you want to point it out, nerd out. Yep. We want to see it. And then just be patient with us, and our plan is to keep doing this with each book. We'll do one video for each part, spoiler intensive, and then at the end we do a BARF review like we've done, where we also have a moment to talk about what we think this means for a series. And we're going to keep pushing through. Also, Matt, you're a lot more knowledgeable on the whole collection, I think, than I am, because I'm kind of just taking this one book at a time. But I know, like with Empire, with the Sun Eater series, we're doing novellas. Are there things like that exist with Malazan? Are there like
There
other novellas or
is.
short stories?
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's like a whole world of Malazan. I don't know what they call it, but there's someone has created like a full chronological reading order that has it splashes in other Steven Erikson books and Ian Esselmont's books that there might be some storylines that we might not ever see a character again, but then Ian Esselmont wrote a novel that picks up their story, that kind of thing. So there is, and if obviously we'll see how we're feeling after 10 books, but like I bought everything. I'm in. I plan on reading all of it. To me, I think I when I was researching it enough people said like just do the 10 books to start. Because I think they found a lot of people that make a big enough commitment. I think it's like 26 books if it's everything. Something crazy. And it's just like the reality of actually finishing that just to, and then you're at the end of the 10 book series. I think it's just so many people fall off. I think a lot of people recommend just like for your first read, just do the 10. And then maybe for like a reread, it could be cool to do like the full chronological order or something like that. But that's like 52 books. That's a lot if you're rereading. So, but so there are some out there. I would say, from my understanding, no essential ones as we're reading through the 10 Book of the Fallen. And real quick,
But
before
if anybody had, I was just saying, if
go.
anybody has any recommendations, because I don't know that Matt and I don't know that we'll be able to do all of those together like this. Certainly, the plan is right now is to go for the 10 books. But if other people have recommendations for ones that wouldn't spoil things in the future, but would just kind of help, there's always going to be periods where Matt or I can kind of be reading another book on the side, and sometimes it'd be really cool to like revisit some older characters. So if anybody has a like novella, I certainly be interested if there was a suggestion of like, oh, you should definitely read this one, because I might have that be one of the books I kind of slowly work through on the side.
I do know one.
What's that?
There is a collection called The Tales of Boshelin and Corbel Brooch. Or whatever.
Are you making this up on the fly, or is
no?
that true?
No, there really is.
Okay.
So that might answer your.
This will
What?
Yeah. As long as I might repair my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if we're gonna get them ever again, but I guess there's at least that. I think it's like a collection of short stories that all involve them. I've tried not to read any like synopsises or anything like that because I want to just stay totally blind in case there's something. I don't know the timeline, so I've not really read it. I think I just know that it's short stories, but I did want to ask if anyone's made it this far in the video. Who are these? We have theories. I'm thinking it's Whiskey Jack and Corlat, but I don't know. We figured out this is Tool and Talk on the side.
Yeah.
But if you know who this is in the Broken Binding edition, it's just so dark that it's hard to see, and also like the hair of this character seems white. Like he seems like an older gentleman, which I guess when I think about it, I don't really know how old Whiskey Jack is, but I didn't imagine him being that old. But maybe he's got blonde hair, and that's just like blonde in black and white, so it looks white. But if you know who that is supposed to be, let us know. Because we could figure it out really, and there's nowhere to really look online of like I tried like who's the black and white inside art. We can figure it out, but all right, let's get out of here. So we'll see you all in probably a little over a month and a half or so with the first House of Chains. Which, by the way, did you know the fourth? Yeah, because you bought it. Fourth book is called House of Chains. So kind of an exciting title. What that's gonna mean? We're getting it's like a heist book. I've heard. No, I'm just kidding. He's getting the crew together, the crippled god, getting the heist crew together. But all right, yeah. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt.
I'm Ian.
That's Ian. We'll see you next time. All right,
Oh,
all right, goodbye.